As always, today's podcast is sponsored by Fire Facilities, makers of reliable, all-American steel fire training structures built the way you train. Fire Facilities towers, burn rooms, and mobile units help you prepare to respond and survive. Welcome back to 3-Point Firefighter. Today's guest is Jeremy Sanders. You know Jeremy from Crew First Culture. Now, Jeremy has been a firefighter for the City of Edmond in Oklahoma for 21 years. He currently serves as the rank of captain. Now, he lives near Tulsa with his wife, Erika, who he shares 8 kids with and 1 grandson. In 2020, Jeremy created Crew First Culture and the Crew First Culture podcast, in which he shares the importance of the pursuit of personal daily growth. The daily growth has helped him to not only become a better firefighter and a better officer, but also a better dad and a better husband. So, but when I'm like you, I like to shoot from the hip. I don't like to have too many notes because then it locks you in. Well, that's one of the things I love about your podcast is when I first found your podcast, I had already been doing mine a little bit, but I didn't have a voice yet. I really didn't have, I just didn't know exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I remember listening to you and I was like, okay, this guy it's just that sitting at the firehouse table talking, which is kind of the back of my head, what kind of wanted. So, I just love your podcast, right? And that's how I found out. I had no idea about your training or anything like that. I just found your podcast and began listening. So earlier today, you and I were texting back and forth, and I was at the gym, and I was listening to I think it's your 3rd episode. And that one hits home for me, man. I love that one because one, it was during COVID. So like this is like your COVID baby, I guess, right? You know, you delivered this in
Pretty
COVID.
much, yeah.
Yeah. And you were talking about how the openness, the honesty, how this is not necessarily I'm paraphrasing the path you planned on taking. And, you want nothing but feedback and talk about fire stuff. I mean, like I said, I told you today, it's like third or fourth time I've listened to it because whenever I get into a struggle with the podcast, I'll put that in and I'll listen to it. Sometimes I'll listen to, a few minutes of it or listen like today, listen to the whole thing. Loved it, brother. You do a great job, man. Thanks for being on.
I appreciate it. These are fun times for me. I always say it, when I am invited on as a guest to a different podcast because it's so nice to be on the other side of it and just kind of enjoy the conversation. I don't have to worry about kind of keeping it going and all the background stuff, which for me is not much because my podcast there's not much to it, man. It's just a record button and talking. I don't hardly edit anything. I don't have a cool like music coming into it, which I tried that for a little bit. Like you said, finding that voice. I think that's where I was too. I don't even know why I did it. It's not me. I'm not a big talker at all. I'm not somebody that just loves to put my voice out there and all that. But I'm I'm realizing that this is part of my purpose and it's just part of who I was meant to be. And so through that process, I can't live other people's lives. I have a lot of struggles as far as like imposter stuff and comparison and things like that, which it's embarrassing to me. I've put that out there a few times because I don't want to be like that. But then I sit and think about it. It's like, even if I tried to be like some of these other, either people or bigger names of podcasts or whatever, it wouldn't come off as authentic. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like that's really my thing. If I have anything, it's just the ability to just be authentic. And, I might not be the guy that teaches the sexy classes that fill up rooms, but I promise you, if I'm teaching something or if I'm talking about something, it's going to be because I have an emotional tie to it and I am passionate about it, because I don't waste my time with anything else, because and I don't even know how to say this without sounding like a tool or whatever, but the person I am and the person I put out there, it's worth too much to devalue that with me trying to play somebody else's role. You know what I mean? If
Mhm.
that kind of makes sense. And so it's just me, and I think that there are lots of great podcasts that fill every little niche and hole there, but to me, I think that social media and even podcasts, that there needs to be more real out there. There needs to be more authentic, more just natural and lifelike. Lifelike means that we're messing up, we're making mistakes, and we're learning from them,
Mhm.
and we're sharing them so other people can learn from them without having to make them themselves. And so that's just kind of that's what I feel is right. I don't want to be somebody that's always focused on negative at the same time. I mean, I don't. I always want to end at least on that positive note. But I just I I've realized that a part of the purpose why I am here, why I was made, is to share my story and everything that I've been through and everything that I've learned to help others. That's just part of what I was made for. And so I've enjoyed kind of discovering new pathways of sharing that. So anyway, I do appreciate you listening, and anybody else out there that spends the time listening, because as well as I do, there's a million different options as far as what somebody wants to listen to or spend time absorbing nowadays. And so it's pretty powerful to hear even that you're just listening and that you resonated with it. But if
Oh yeah,
those
absolutely. And
times
I
that
tell
you
you,
get really good messages, it's powerful.
well, we there's so much in common with you and I. So if anybody knows me, this is not what I was going to do. I'm not the guy that does podcasts. That wasn't me. I If you listen to the podcast, I've told the story several times. I was reading. I'm getting ready to go to Florida on a vacation. Every time I go, I take a book with me to read. And so this one year, I took Jared Sergi's
Yep.
book, and I loved it. It just, you talk about resonating, man. Everything he said, I was like, oh my god. And I knew I wanted to do something like him. I wanted to put my name out there. I wanted to be part of the national conversation. Something in my brain said, hey, podcast. I've never done it before, never wanted to do it before. And it was, man, it was burned into my brain. It just was. And once I did it, it was, I love telling this story. It's like, so I had to have Jared as my first guest. That was that. I figured he
Yep.
wouldn't do it. So that way I'd get out of it. I wouldn't have to
Yep.
do the podcast. But of course, he's the nicest guy in the world. And he said, oh,
uh,
absolutely. So I did it, and I
Dang
hit
it.
this. But yeah, I know, right? That's right. And I bought a bunch of equipment just because I knew if I spent money, I'd have to do it. So I did
Yeah.
all this stuff. I hit upload after I interviewed him and everything, and I ran up to my wife. She works from home, and I like a little kid. I said, "Oh, I did it! I did it! It's out there now. I can't take it back." Like an idiot. Um, but for me, I've made so many mistakes in my career that I feel like I can share those here to help those people that maybe don't have to make that mistake, or made that mistake only once, where I've made it like 1,000 times. So
Yep.
that is how I feel so connected to your podcast, because when I hear you talk, I swear that it's stories that I could tell too. You're open, you're honest, you're not afraid to let people know mistakes you've made, um, and what you've learned from them. So there's a lot of power in your podcast, I think. Um, I will tell you this: I did a real quick search on Firefighter podcast before I started, and I couldn't find any. I must have done something wrong, and I'm so glad I didn't find any, because I decided to do the podcast. And now I look, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many
Oh yeah.
podcasts out there. If I knew how many podcasts were out there, I definitely
Yeah.
would have done it. So it all worked out pretty well for me, brother. But yeah, same thing for you. But let me ask you a question real quick. I'd love to know this answer. Are you the same on your podcast as you are at the firehouse? Would the people that work with you say you're the same person? Because, and I'll explain my part here in a little bit, but just real short, I don't think I am. But you go ahead and I'll explain mine after you.
Man, I want to say yes. I mean, I guess I've never asked that of people because honestly I don't ever really even bring it up. I don't even honestly know if the people that I'm currently with have ever listened to it. I know some crew members in the past when I was doing it were listening here and there, but the current group of people is all new within the past, I guess, year and a half. And so I don't even know if they've actually experienced it. So to be honest, I hope so. I feel like I just like I've already mentioned. I'm just trying to be who I know to be, and that's just me. I don't have any interest in putting up any kind of fake persona or like personality or like playing in a role or anything like that. I don't have any interest in that. And so I hope so. That's about as honest as I could answer it. But I'm sure there are times when there are a lot of times when the message I am saying and what I'm talking about is because I need to hear it. So it's almost like I'm talking to myself,
Yeah, I get
talking
that.
myself through things. So there might be a little bit of difference in there, but I think for the most part is pretty close. I'm
Well, here,
interested to hear your difference.
okay, so here it is. All right, now I, I am the training officer for my department, and so for me to say this, you got to take a grain of salt with this. I do not believe we have the best training culture where I work. I'm not bashing on it. I'm just saying some places have really strong, some have almost none. I don't
Yeah,
think ours is as strong as it should be. Because of that, for the longest time, I would suppress at work some of my thoughts and feelings. Like whenever a new like UL NIST study or anything came out, I was like, oh, giddy and stuff, like a little girl. I was just all excited. Anytime there's new tools or new tactics or new videos or somebody's near, speaking. We just had Mark Van Oppen here a couple days ago near us. I would just, but no one else was all that excited about that stuff where I was at. So I was wrong in suppressing my love of the fire service. I
yeah,
mean, I did my job. Don't get me wrong, and I try to. There's several people I work with that are just fantastic, and they love talking this stuff. But basically, I think it was a surprise for a lot of people because I just don't hit them over the head with my passion, and that was a mistake.
yeah,
That was a mistake that I made for several years ago. But when I got started here at the podcast 3 years ago, I can't help but contain it, man. I get to talk to Jeremy Sanders and Corley Moore and all these people. How am I going to not let people
yeah,
know how excited I am about my job? I love my
yeah,
job. So I think for all this to say, I think if some people that I work with ever watch this, they'd be like, "Holy cow! I had no idea he was like this." I think it's coming out slower and slower and slower. I mean, I'm the training guy, so I get super excited about stuff anyway.
yeah.
But that's the funny thing, and I hate that about myself that I was afraid to like share my passion or show my passion. But everything led me here, so I can't really complain too much, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of maybe as you described that, maybe a little bit with me, but I think more in the sense of if it's somebody that I've worked with in the past that hasn't maybe been around me in a while, they would absolutely probably answer you like, I don't even know who that is. But that's the truth, and I hope that continues to be the truth because I don't want to be the same person next year that I
Yeah,
am right now. And
right.
so maybe that's kind of what you're seeing in yourself as well. And I don't really think that's being a different person. I just think that you're learning, you're growing, you're trying to find your space and your voice, like you've said, and it's just part of the process.
30 years into it, I kind of wish I did this about 29 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to bring something up real quick. I want to bring up your page to talk about it here in a second. Because, like I said, when I first heard you was on your podcast, I had no idea all the things you did, and I mean, you've got an amazing website. Um, so,
Thanks, man. I built that myself. I'm pretty proud of that.
no, no, oh, you
For
built it
somebody that
yourself?
doesn't know it, yeah, I didn't know anything
Okay,
about it. I just kind of figured it out.
here you go. Here's what now I'm gonna hit you over the head with a brag. You ready? Bragging on you. So it's my third favorite website for a firefighter, and I'll tell you what they are because they're hilarious. You go to Nozzle Forward, Aaron Fields. His bios on his instructors crack me up every time. A big shout out to Devin Craig. His Train or Die is an amazing website, right? And it's a lot of fun. And yours is exactly the same way, bro. It is. There's so much there. Now, here's where you're going to probably get mad at me. I'm officially going to absolutely build me a website now. I've got
Perfect.
merch, but I've never put on my website. I've got other podcasts I've been on. I've got YouTube, all this stuff, and I'm looking at yours, and I'm like, dude, this is awesome. And matter of fact, I'm going to steal something from you. I mean, right here. Here's my favorite. Well, yeah, this is my favorite part probably. Your partners and friends. Now, this is so cool. This is where you're just supporting brothers and sisters that you believe in their mission or their message. And I'm looking on here, and for those, I want everybody to go to crew, the number one, stculture.com. Crew1stculture.com. It's a great website. I promise you, you'll love it. But like on your partners and friends, you have Firefighter Rescue Survey, and I'm just hitting a few of them, by the way. You got Mark Alone, The Fire Inside. You've got the Couplings podcast. You've got Duffy's, of course. You got Taylor Tins, Trainer. Oh yeah, Trainer Die. Yeah, blah blah blah. You got all these great things, and it's just because you're sharing your passion for the job with these people. You're not getting kickbacks or nothing like that.
No.
And then, of course, your podcasts are on there. Other podcasts you've been on are on there. Hopefully, a 3-point Firefighter link will be up there. And your merch is absolutely the best. I want everybody to go to the merch, and I'll tell you what. Are you a Star Wars fan? Is that what it is?
I am. That's a really delicate turn or a question there, because because I've known some Star Wars fans, and I am not a Star Wars fan. I like Star Wars, I'll say that, but I'm not
Okay.
I don't know the backstories of all the characters and the be real characters
Yeah.
and all. I just like
Well,
the movies. That's
you okay. That's totally fine. I could tell
But yes,
because
there are some nods to Star Wars in there for sure. Yeah.
absolutely some great references. I want everybody to go to this website, Crew1ST Culture. The hats, dude. I'm telling you, you got great stuff, great challenge coins. Anyway, I want to
That was
brag on
just
that.
I mean, that's the point, or that's what I wanted to accomplish by that is everything. And you're absolutely right. It's almost stupid how many things I've got out there. Just social medias and podcasts and guest podcast episodes and articles, all this stuff. And it's not like not anything special. It's just everybody has a bunch of crap, and I just wanted to make it as easy as possible for somebody just to go there and find anything and everything. And there's also, I haven't updated in quite a while, but there's also a Google Drive in there. There's an area for documents, and there's a Google Drive, kind of
Oh,
like a baby Kyle Romikis's Bro Drive, but just some stuff that I've kind of collected as far as job descriptions and uh, new new hire type things that we were looking through as far as our department. And so just a lot of resources basically as well.
there's a
But
ton of them.
the friends area, that's one of my favorite parts too, because that's absolutely right. It's not like I am a sponsor of these or they're sponsoring me. These are literally, I would say, 99% of those names and companies on there are people that I've met and had at least some good conversation with, and most of them have actually made an impact on my life. And so I definitely want to do the best I can to pay a little bit of that forward and share their message as well. So that's kind of the point of all that.
I'm stealing that page, but I'm going to
That's
give you
right.
credit. And the very first link on there is going to be Crew First. I promise you.
That'd be
That's
perfect,
an
man.
amazing. And then you
I
got
don't
the
have a patent on it, so you're good.
it's just big brotherly love. I
Yeah.
see here it says Engine 3 Company Probationary Firefighter Task Book. So
Yep.
this is the actual one you use in Edmond, right?
So we, at the time I made that, we didn't have anything department wide or wise. And so that's why I started reaching out. Hey, send me what you got. And I just created something that I liked myself, that made the most sense, that looked the best. And for a little period, I just used it for my crew, because like I said, we didn't have anything, and we were getting new firefighters right out of the academy. I wanted something. And so now the department has taken that and kind of tooled it to what they want and what they need, and we have a department version of that. But at the time, yeah, that was kind of the only thing we had.
Oh wow, it's good too. I was going through it. I love like I just saw the SCBA familiarization and all that. That is something that I've noticed a lot of people tend to once you learn the SCBA, it's assumed that's you got it for the rest of your career. Nobody wants to
Yeah.
follow up on
Oh
it,
yeah.
and that is such a huge mistake. So I love that that's in there. And let's pick a fight real quick. Let's go down this rabbit hole. Have you ever, or do you, when you get off the truck, have your waist strap unhooked?
I tried at my very best, and unless we are like 2 blocks away from where we're going,
Hmm.
it it's going to be buckled up. I will admit that there have been some times where I'm lucky to have all my stuff together while I got off, because it was such a quick kind of transfer from where we were to where we're going.
Hmm.
So that was kind of a discombobulation there. But no, the goal for me is to be ready to go, man. If I've got time, I'm even going to have my gloves on coming out. I feel like that's the best way to go, especially if something were to happen to where you come on scene and you are pushed into action right away. I don't have to worry about anything except for just masking up and getting the job done. So that's what I would say for sure.
See, you're the only person I've posed that question to so many people because that is a huge thing for me. I cannot stand people that now I used to do it. Don't get me wrong, I used to do it,
Yeah.
but um, I'm completely against it. You're the only person that's ever once given me a reason. Oh yeah, if I'm a couple blocks out, man, I got to go to job town, dude. I'm not gonna worry about that. If there's somebody at the way, I get that. That makes total sense to me. But when I see these people doing it, when I did it, I probably thought I was super cool or something. I wasn't. I don't know that I've ever been cool, but I've always asked that question, and they're like, I don't know, I just don't. And so that's always been like a big thing of mine. I'm like, why do people? What is it? And
Yeah.
you are the only one to ever give me a logical answer. Perfect,
Well, and
outstanding, young man.
it's just the look, right? The vision of, now you're talking. It's interesting because you talk about how you felt back in the old days when you were doing it, how it
Mhm.
made you feel cool. But now you look at it now and it's just like, is that how that person's going to operate? Half done.
Mhm.
Are they not going to put their full effort into a task that I'm going to depend on them to do? It's just that whole picture of what you're putting out there. I feel like it's a little thing maybe to some people, but all these little things, man, it doesn't take very many of them to start making bigger things. And so that's kind of for me, and it even bleeds into the whole automatic alarms. You know, I we made it a priority several years back that, okay, we are going to bunk out completely on automatic alarms, which department wide is not a thing. I mean, there might be some people doing it, but it's not a thing.
Mhm.
And so it took a little bit to kind of make it a thing for us and make it part of our culture. And I'm telling you right now, just being honest, there's some days where we'll work out or do some heavy training in the morning, and of course, all your crap is just nasty. And you go take a shower, and what's going to happen 15 minutes after the shower?
Gotta
Automatic
run.
alarm, and you're just sitting there like, gosh dang it, I don't want to put this stuff on. But it's just like a discipline thing. Just do it. It's part of what you are asking your people to do. Just do it. And so that has been a very tough test of my discipline at times. But it's all the same thing. You're getting off. You're ready to go. If it's nothing, okay, it's nothing. If it is,
Right.
then no big deal. We're ready. So
Yeah, and that's it. I believe I'm of the belief that we need to be bunked out every time. Turn out every single time you make a run. I'm going to take it a step further. This is where I'm going to aggravate some people. If you make it like a high rise, right? Whatever's a high rise to you in your area, and you make this high rise every day. Every day it comes in. Usually comes in around lunchtime or dinner time, whatever. Um, I would go as far as say not only do turn out completely, but also um, take your high rise pack up and hook it up. Hook it up. You don't have to turn anything on, you don't have to charge anything, but get that default set going. You do not lose anything, especially if you got younger people. Um, you don't lose anything. You go up, and as your crew now, let's say you can see it's one of those buildings you can see there's nothing going on. Still have your crew do it, even if you go up to the door and just ask them, like, you can see, oh, they're at the door, like, hey, we're over here, it's fine, it's nothing. Still have your crew do it, because then it's at that default setting. Because the whole idea to me, the default setting is when stuff starts going really, really bad, you default into
yeah,
your training. And if your
yeah,
default setting is to not do your job because you want to get back to the firehouse, well, that's what's going to happen. You're not going to do your job. So
yeah,
I've seen that happen. When I got started about 100 years ago in the Air Force as a firefighter, they had us catch a plug every time. Every single time we went to an automatic alarm, we literally got off, caught a plug, and they pulled up a little bit, and we connected to it and everything. We didn't charge it. We got everything ready to go. And that's how I was brought into the fire service. Fast forward to when I started working for Lexington and New Albany, they didn't do that. Most people don't do that. I get that.
yeah,
But I feel like that got me way more prepared, because if something happened, that default setting would have kicked in, not me going, oh crap, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
yeah,
So I feel like we could do a whole lot more for our citizens by being ready, being uncomfortable, because our job is uncomfortable. But you'd mentioned it being a culture thing too, like at your department, it's a
yeah.
culture change. I know you and I probably share a lot. Well, I know we do because I've listened to your stuff, a lot of stuff on culture. So for you, how hard is it to change a culture in your department?
Uh, I'll I don't even know how to answer that question. I will answer a question a level or two below that. I know that just changing a culture in a crew, like not even a firehouse, a crew
Mhm.
of 5 people, like I have tried, that journey we've been on. It took 5 years to see some work, to see some actual benefits of what we were doing, and that's one crew with only 5 people. And so to change an entire department, I don't even know. I mean, it's going to be the whole uh, Rob Fisher, 10 pounds of pressure, 100% of the time
Yeah.
type slow move. But I've heard it a long time ago, and I've repeated it so many times, and I can't even remember who to give it to. But it was the best description of culture I've ever heard. It's basically like you're steering. It's like you're in a cruise ship or a giant warship, whatever, and you're steering it with a tiny 6-inch rudder.
Hmm.
You're gonna move, you're gonna turn eventually, but it's not gonna happen anytime soon. And so that, I promise you, that's what it feels like. Even like I said, my level, that's where I can answer that. I'm a station officer, and that's been a big part of my story, and really everything I speak on, and all that. It's a big part of who I am, just that journey. And to even maybe even think about a shift where you're talking about a third of the department is almost overwhelming to me. It's almost like I know what it took for one crew, and I almost get anxiety thinking, oh gosh, how would you ever how would you ever do that? But it's the same thing. You got to figure out where you're going, where you want to be, and you got to just start making the best decisions as you can. And And when you mess up, you own it, you correct, and you keep going. That's you just breaking it down as easy. It's funny that you say that. I'm trying to finish up an article right now that's called, how to fly airplane while you're building it. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
You're leading a crew and you don't really know how to lead a crew. How are you going to do that? Or you're changing culture and you barely know what the word culture means. How do you do that? But just breaking it down into that, it takes a vision. It takes buy-in. So taking care of your people, and it takes consistency. And that's been the hardest one for me, is that consistency, because there's a lot of things that I want to throw out there that are important and that I know we need to be doing. But when it comes to actually me doing the work and me pushing it constantly, it's not that easy. So I've got to really find out if this is truly important to me, and I feel like it's important to us, then I better be the person pushing it, at least until I can get some solid buy-in to where I'm getting help. But at first, it's not their vision, it's mine. I've got to be the one doing that work. And so, yeah, that's kind of a big deal for me, just that journey that I've been on.
So you're more crew first culture. You're just crew centered, and you're hoping it's going to spread a little bit. For me, as an admin, I'm of the mindset, and I know this isn't right. I'm just going to share my mindset with you. My mindset for changing a culture at my level would be through policies and rules and regs. I don't think that's the right way to do it, but that's like where my toolbox is. I'm like, sweeping change through paperwork, but paperwork is absolutely useless if it works against the number one thing,
Yeah,
which is keeping our citizens safe. Number two thing, keeping us safe. And number three, if it's not even enforced, what's the point,
yeah,
right? So I've been fortunate enough to go around and teach different places, and I've seen some fantastic cultures. I've seen some struggling cultures. Haven't seen really any horrible cultures. I mean, I just haven't. But I think of whenever I think of culture and change, I think the one unicorn has got to be Pearland, Texas, with Chief Jay Taylor and Jacob Johnson.
yeah.
They to hear them talk about it, what they were able to do in such a short amount of time, as far as bringing culture uh, not only back better but stronger. Uh, but to be fair, I haven't been down there and met some of those firefighters they work with. It can't be that hard. They got some fantastic people down there.
Yeah.
But it just right now it seems like to me that culture is such a hot button issue, and everybody has such a different view of what it is. So how do you apply a subjective term to an objective task? You just I
Yeah.
don't know that you can. But
What,
I
just
don't blame it
like
on.
personally, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, you go ahead. You're more important
Well,
than me. Trust me.
no, no, no. Well, just speaking personally through my department, we have got, and I don't even know what the total is right now. I know it's well north of 500 and probably coming close to 600 pages of policies and procedures.
Oh,
So you saying that, I'm not arguing with you at all. That plays a role in this whole thing. But to those that think that they can solve it by strictly putting out paperwork, I promise you, it's not going to happen,
no.
because nobody is going to. That's not going to motivate anybody. It's not
Mm-mm.
going to inspire anybody. And so for me, I think just that, focusing on that purpose, focusing on a mission and the connection that we have there, and the blessings we have of the job we got, just keeping it positive and really having, going back to that connection. That is one of the biggest words probably of this year for me, is connection, because it's played such a huge role in my life, especially this year. And I now see that, gosh, it is absolutely critical to anything good in the fire service. If
Mhm.
if you aren't working on your connections, as far as your people and your department, your shift, whatever it is, nothing else is going to be making big strides, because you might be gaining incremental, good things here and there, but you're never going to reach a full potential that you can if you don't have a good connection with whatever group you're working with.
Hmm.
It's got to start there.
Yeah. I like your word consistency too. You said earlier about talking about consistency, and
Yeah.
we are in the process right now of doing a fitness program. So again, as the admin, I am coming at it because that's a culture change too. We don't have
Oh yeah.
a, that's huge, right?
Absolutely.
So I start building policy and stuff like that, like I was talking about, in hopes to change the culture. But then it boils down to this: if my chief officers above me came in and worked out every day, I wouldn't need I wouldn't need a policy, would I?
Exactly. Yep.
They set that
Exactly.
example, and then
Yep.
they're consistent with it, and I think that would be way better than having a piece of paper. I really
Yep.
truly do. But what if the bottom is not with it? What if the top part aren't with it? Then that's where that paperwork has to come in. But it's
Yeah.
still useless. It's useless if it doesn't serve the needs of the citizens and doesn't serve the needs of the firefighters, in my opinion.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. And that's where I've struggled, like I said, with that consistency. And I think one of the things, if you would have asked me, oh shoot, well, I guess 14 years ago now, before I was an officer, when I was still just a driver, what would be your biggest obstacle to overcome to be a good officer? And I would have told you without hesitation, just my propensity to avoid conflict. I hate conflict. I've always been somebody who did whatever they could to avoid conflict. And I know that's not going to go well if you are somebody in charge of people. And so
yeah,
that has been, obviously something that I've had to really grow in. And man, it it's very hard to be consistent in something you don't enjoy or you're not good at, or whatever. But it's not as hard as it is when you work so hard to gain some ground culture wise, and you got your firehouse culture making good strides and getting some momentum, and then you absolutely, the brakes get shoved on, and you're now losing momentum and you're losing
yeah,
ground. And it's because you didn't stay consistent in the areas that you should be. You didn't hold other people accountable for the things that they are not living up to the standard at. Whatever it is, that was a lot harder for me. And so I started realizing, I not that I enjoy conflict now, but I would rather engage in whatever is needed instead of just sitting back and letting the wheels fall off and losing everything that we've worked so hard to gain. And so it just comes down to cost. What are you willing to pay, and what are you willing to really have to deal with? Because you're going to have to pay sooner or later. It's either going to be now, or it's going to be in the future when you lose some good things that you were really hoping to gain.
absolutely. And I have seen it um, before, where company officers would just rather not deal with the crew. An individual, we'll just say it's an individual. They don't want to interact. They're like, oh, I can't do anything with them. I got this dud, and there's nothing I can do, and blah blah blah. And maybe we'll just say they're. Well, we talked about PPE. They don't wear their PPE right, and you've told them, and you've gave them verbals or whatever, and they're not going to do it. And I've seen officers that go, you know what, I'm done. And I'm like, that's not a luxury you have. You're an officer. You're the captain. That's your crew.
Yeah.
You don't have a luxury of quitting. I mean, you figure it out. You have plenty of resources. If you can't handle it within your company, then you got resources outside of your company. But I'm like you. I'm not a big fan of conflict. And what has really changed my outlook on any type of leadership, not that I do it perfectly. Matter of fact, I'm probably a better example of a don't than a do, but I'm still in there playing.
Yeah.
Um, there are two books that have nothing to do with firefighters, but I think are absolutely crucial to leadership. And the first one is I'm going to tear it up here. Let's see. Crucial Conversations. It was a bestseller, and it's how to have those difficult conversations. And so the four main, and I'm paraphrasing. I wasn't really prepared to talk about it, but say there's four main things. One is picking the time. What time are you going to sit down and talk to this person? What's the location? Because you can control that.
Yeah.
Two is stating your objective facts. Hey, listen, you're not wearing your gear. We were on that last run. You're not wearing your gear correctly. And three is where does that lead you to a conclusion? You'd say, well, you weren't wearing your gear correctly. I'm starting to think that you don't care about your own safety, but you're not even taking in consideration our safety.
Yeah.
And then four is you listen to their story. What's their side of it, right? Because
Yeah.
there might be a reason.
Yeah.
So that I highly recommend that book. It's great, especially if you don't like conflict like myself. And then the other one is Emotional Intelligence 2.0. And it's the ability to be self-aware, knowing how you affect people, how people affect you, and how the social aspect plays in. You tie those two things together for people like you and me that don't really like conflict, and
Yeah.
it's like a roadmap. It's really it's. I start looking for reasons. I try to pick fights with the old lady so I can use them, and it never works out. She never lets me win. She actually teaches that.
She's probably read Emotional Intelligence 3.0. You just didn't even know it.
She's living in the year 3000, brother. I ain't going to win on her. She does teach Crucial Conversations, though. She actually is certified to teach that class, so I can never win. She's like, are you trying to state your objective facts? I'm like, gosh darn it.
Quit using big words. You're making me feel dumb.
Yeah, no. I'm a dumb old boy from Kentucky, man. Leave me alone. But I think it's important though that we have that. I love it. Consistency, man. That's it. Consistency on everything. Consistency on training. Consistency on trying to maintain a good crew culture. I love it. I love it, brother. One of the things when I listen to your podcast, when I listen to you talk, is your honesty. I mean, it's refreshing. It inspires me to be more honest about things I've done wrong. So I always go back to that third episode. I want everybody to listen to all your podcasts. They're all fantastic. I want everybody to listen to them and the ones you've been on, especially 3-Point Firefighter. And but you mentioned in there, you were so honest about this run. You were going to make, it was a structure fire, and you were training, and you were a couple blocks away. Why don't you tell my brothers and sisters listening a little bit about that? Because that was open and honest, brother.
Yeah, that was a hard that was a hard lesson to learn. That was a hard thing to overcome. So yes, it was a weekend. So we were out of district. We had a whatever you call it, a donated house that we were kind of able to do whatever we wanted to, except tear it up and burn it. But we don't get those very often, and so when we do, we really try to freaking wear it out. At least our crew, because it's such an amazing tool to really do so many different things. But so we were out there. We were doing VES drills and laddering the building, and structure fire comes in, and it's literally, shoot, I bet it was probably 4 or 5 blocks away. I don't know for sure, but it was not very far away. So here we are in somebody else's district about to just smoke them on a first in fire, and it would have been so awesome. And so
because you could rub it in their face.
Oh yeah. And so we have to throw our ladders back on. So it does take us a little bit to kind of get squared away and get moving. But we jump in, and shoot, we even got our gear on already. So it's almost like the easy button was just there. All you got to do is push it.
Yeah.
And this thing is just laying in my lap, just ready to unwrap. And I pull up the computer to look at it, and I think, I got it figured out. Go so-and-so, take left, blah, blah, blah. And as we get closer to this address, it's on a mile section, but just probably 50 feet on the other side of that mile section is a railroad track. And there's not many crossings of this railroad track. And for some reason, I tell my driver to keep going right over the railroad tracks. And of course, as soon as I do that, I realize it's not where we need to be. And there is no fast way to get this corrected. We are stopping, backing up into a different street, it's a mess. And so as we're doing this, of course, there goes the first in engine that should have been first anyway,
Right.
blows by us. I don't even know now. We might have even been third. I don't remember. We were second or third in. Uh, it is a weird situation to where I don't even know what happened, but some type of small explosion. They basically walked a lady out that was, obviously in the middle of whatever was going on. So I'm sitting there watching somebody do the stuff that we should be doing. I've got a brand new guy that we've never fought fire with that it was waiting on his first fire. Just all these things were like, oh my gosh, I want to strangle myself. And so I found my guys got to at least go do medical on the patient. So they were helping do something good. I'm sitting there in the front yard holding some freaking dogs. That was my assignment. And all I could think the whole time was like, this is what you deserve. You deserve to sit here and hold dogs while everybody else is doing fun stuff. And you're an idiot. And man, you don't. I'm the type of person that I don't have to get beat on by somebody else to know, I've screwed up. I
Mhm.
know it, and nobody's going to beat on me harder than myself. And I really that hung over my head for a while, and I finally realized, okay, I feel like the only way I'm going to get past this is just throw it out there, just just admit what I did, tell whoever wants to listen the story, how I screwed it up, and maybe somebody will get some good out of the stupid thing that I did. And so, and it did. As soon as I put it out there, it was like a weight lifted off of me. And I know at that point there's nothing I can do to make it better. It's already happened and gone. All I can do is better make sure it doesn't happen to me again. But still, it took that to truly unload it from myself. And I don't remember what the podcast name was, but I remember very clearly making a picture for my social media post where I talked about it too, and it says every fire is our game seven, and I blew it. Basically, is what
Mhm.
that said, and that's truly how I felt. It's like I freaking blew it, and especially with all the other factors that were circling that whole thing. It was just it was hard to it was hard to chew on that for a while, but in the end, hopefully it's out there, and if anybody ever listens to it, whenever, maybe they'll learn something from it, and some good will come of it.
Well, I know I've heard it a couple times now, and it's inspiring to know that people like you aren't afraid to say, you know what, I screwed up, and not only did I screw up, but I'm gonna put it out there for the world to see, so you don't have to screw up. And to me, that's true brotherhood. That's putting them before you, and I admire you for it. And that's, I mean, it's. I started the podcast with how I thought you were, when I found you, you were just a podcast. That's what I thought. I had no idea this enormity that you do. You do classes, you write articles. You do a podcast, you do everything. So I want to ask you a couple of things about your classes. And so I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna say the names. I want you to tell me a little bit about them because I want people to go to your website, crew1stculture.com, check it out, and hopefully get a hold of you because I guarantee you these are quality classes. So here's the first one, and I'm so intrigued just by the title, man. You're great at titles, by the way. It says, "Why are you here?" It's just that simple. Tell us about that class.
So that one started as I wanted to create a class for really my home department rookie school. That you get these rookie classes coming in, and I wanted to create a class that got well beyond the normal stuff they're going to be learning and hearing about in rookie school. And the really the meat of it, if I was going to cliff note it down, is just that question. Because I remember when I was new, even though it was over 2 decades ago, and I remember somebody asking, and I couldn't tell you who it was, but I remember somebody asked, "Why do you want to be a firefighter?" And of course, the first person said, "Well, I want to help people." And now that that answer's out there, you're not going to say anything else. Everybody, I want to help people. I want to help. I want to help. And so, okay, that's great. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying don't do that. What I am saying is that if that's all you have, if that's the only reason that is in your heart and in your mind that you are a firefighter, within a year of going to lift assists and you know human excrement calls and on and on and on, whatever, helping people is going to be out the window. You're going to be like, screw people. I'm done with people. I don't want to help people anymore. And then you have nothing to lean on. You know what I mean? And so to me, we it's got to be deeper than that. There's got to be a why far, far deeper in your heart than that. That is important. That is a big piece of it. But you have to have other things to really stabilize that, or else that by itself is not going to withstand the test of time. And so for me, I want to get in there and share my why. Tell them, maybe you don't know the answer to this right now, and I'm not expecting you to come up with it instantly. But this is something that took me 20 years in the service to figure out, and I don't want it to take that long for you. I want you to start thinking about it right now, because there were a lot of down times and struggles in my career that I may have avoided if I had that why to stabilize me. But that's really kind of the easiest way to sum it up, is just some really deep things that aren't, as far as what I've ever heard, it just really aren't discussed in that type of environment. So I want to prepare these people mentally, just like they are getting prepared physically and skill wise and all that by the training staff. I want them to also be prepared mentally for what they're about to step into.
You know, two things come to mind. The first one is, how cool would it be to you ask that question to you brand new people, why are you here? And videotape it. And then each year ask them the same
Yeah.
question. And
Yeah.
then at the end of their career, look at that and see, okay, did that shore you up? Did your why change? It's okay if your why changes,
Oh yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
but I think that owns a little accountability too, because I always say like around 5 years, people become the
Yeah.
firefighters they're going to be, more or less. You get 5 years on the job, then you're like, okay, that's, if they're riding couches, they're going to ride couches the rest of their career. If they're up in training, they're probably keep up training. So that makes me think of that. And the second thing is, you just pulled a thought out of my head from the '90s, bro. So check this out. You melted my head with this one. I was reminded while you were telling that story. I haven't thought about this in a long time. When I was in the military as a firefighter in the Air Force, we had a sergeant, Staff Sergeant John Solis, great guy, super great. And I remember the time I was asking him why he became a firefighter. And he had the best answer ever. He said, when I was a kid, I saw there's a house across the street caught fire, and I saw the firefighters pull up and jump off the trucks and pull the hose and go in and pull the fire, put the fire out. He saw that, but the last thing he said about it though is what sticks. He said, and I thought that was a noble profession, and that's all he said. And I'm like, that's a good why. That
Yeah.
is a good why. A
Doesn't
big
have
part
to
of it
be
is noble.
complicated, man.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be. No, and it's
Yeah.
like I said, it's okay to change. If you say I want to help people, I think it's cute when brand new firefighters say that, because they have no idea. Like, to your point, you're going to be lift assist, and it's going to be smells and bells. So if it's to help people, sometimes it's making that run where they call 911 because they're too lazy to change their own oxygen tank, and you
Oh
have to
yeah,
do it.
absolutely. Yep.
I remember a lady calling to get her she couldn't get a bracelet off, and we had to go do it. You know, but I was mad. I remember my boss handled it great. I was mad. But I was a young, stupid fireman. But if that's your why, that's what helping people looks like. Now, if you're going to
Yep.
tell me I just want to go into burning buildings, that's a different story. That's very limiting too. But
Yeah.
when you say I want to help people, then mean it. Then help people. Um, anyway, I love it. I love it. Some of your other classes, Firehouse Essentials from Character to Culture. What's that one about? That sounds
So
like it could
that
start
is
fights.
You probably could, yeah, absolutely. Uh, that's basically, I talked about the journey of going from, to be honest, it was the worst crew on our department. There's no sugarcoating that, to something to be proud of. That's the journey that me and my crew have been on for, shoot, I guess 5.5 years now, almost 6 years. And like I said, it was a very slow process. And even to just start to see some light at the end of the tunnel, it took a long time. But that class really kind of digs into that process, that journey, what what it took to start gaining ground and momentum, what it took to get buy-in from people that originally weren't bought in, what it really took from me to make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake, and slowly start to learn my lesson, over time. And just, it's just that whole process. And like you said, you asked me what it takes to change a culture in a department. Well, it doesn't matter really. You ask most people, if they aren't just nerds of culture, like, some of us, to even say, how do you change, or just define culture, or just define a good culture, or what is a firehouse culture that you would want to be at look like? Those questions are hard to answer for a lot of people. And so, to really, the this class is just my way of giving everything I've got from the past 6 years, and just laying it out there, and hoping that I can impress upon somebody something in that journey to help them on theirs, or to maybe clarify some things, or just add value to people that are in there. And that's kind of the premise of that.
I love it. I love it. And again, you're laid bare there. I mean, you're like, look, you don't have to make my mistakes. The power of balance, unlocking your full potential in leadership and in life. I've noticed, especially with your intro, some people some people are just, they're firefighters and they don't talk about their family. I'm one of those guys. I don't on, on anything. I keep my family separate from my job. I don't have a reason. Like, if you were to ask me why I did that, I guess just because I've always done that. I know it's a horrible horrible answer. I've always done it this way. You're not that guy. So you intertwine your fire life with your family, and that's awesome. And it looks here like that's exactly kind of what you're talking about: power of balance, unlocking your full potential in leadership and in life. So would I be wrong on making that assumption?
No, that is part of it. There's kind of a few parts to that one. What you're talking about is that absolutely a big piece of that. And yet again, another area that I've really struggled in. I've got a terrible ADHD mind, that
Me
you
too.
talk about all the things I am involved in. That's why. It's not because I'm great at anything. It's just I'm involved in a lot of crap. I can't focus on anything. But excuse my leg is going to sleep here. But
Oh, it's going to be up all
uh,
night now.
uh, so yeah, that finding that balance between the family that I love and the job that I love, but now throw in the mix of the purpose that I now see for myself, which involves a lot of that job that I love, and things outside of the job, and just just trying to keep a balance that is healthy, and covers all my priorities. It's a struggle. Absolutely, every day is a struggle. So that, yeah, that is a big piece of that. Another big piece of that is something that I've really got excited about, kind of as I start digging into it, is the balance between almost contrasting characteristics. Like, you take strength and vulnerability. So you look at somebody you would call a strong leader, completely different from somebody you would call that guy. He's just really comfortable being vulnerable. Well, usually those two don't mesh. But when you could get somebody that is truly comfortable being vulnerable, and putting himself out there, but at the same time is a strong leader, and is just somebody that puts that air out there, man, that is a powerful, powerful mix. And so that's kind of what that gets into. And you got humility and confidence, which is another one of my favorites. Somebody that is able to maintain a level of humility, but at the same time, they're very confident and competent in what they do. It's like you just want to follow those people. That is the type of people I want to be around. And so that's kind of really where that title came from, is truly grabbing the power of balancing these things. It's not one end or the other where the true gold is. It's right there in the middle. If we can find a balance between home and work, if we can find a balance between these character traits that are they're so different from each other, that it's a very impressive mix that I really started to really want to kind of model myself after.
Wow. I love it. What about impact beyond the firehouse walls?
So that is something that has been evolving, and I would say, you know, I just described my mind, and I have realized that if you want to keep doing this speaking thing, you got to kind of at least have a foundational something. You can't just bounce around and say, "Well, this is a new class I made, bring me in." Well, people want to know that you've given it, and people want to know that it's being received well, especially the bigger places. And so this has become, I think, that flagship for me. And the name has even seems like it's changed over and over again, just because the message within it is changing.
Mm.
But it's all about, again, it's about my journey, but this time it's about my journey away from work. It's about my journey of just trying to find a way to add value to people's lives, just trying to use what I have in my story to figure out why I'm here, that my purpose, and just truly pouring myself into that purpose, and pursuing it, and trying to make a difference in a big way. And I want to share that because it's not just the big names that have a powerful story. It's not just the Navy SEALs that come out that have a powerful story that are going to help people. It's not just the big city firemen that have 42 grabs and 7,000, 1,400,000 fires under their belt that are
Mm.
going to impact people. We all have a specific story, a specific life, a specific events that we have been through, and struggles that nobody else can replicate, nobody else can feel. And so this class is really my way of hoping to inspire anyone that will listen to make an impact of your own, to make a difference of your own, to help people in whatever way you're made to help people. And that, like I said, that this is probably the biggest area that I am just truly throwing myself into right now. Just that idea of purpose, and of the mission, and everything like that. I just I think that it's so big for people to really kind of keep in mind. It goes back to the why. All these things are all tied in together. But and I mentioned it on the scrap with Corley Moore. A saying kind of came into my head, and I made some bracelets with it on there because it's so powerful to me. But it says perfectly made for a I wouldn't want to screw it up. Perfectly made for an extraordinary purpose. And
Uh,
so, like I
I got it
told
right
him,
here. Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly like the new name for this class, that it keeps evolving, but that truly is so powerful to me, because that's where everybody in the world is right now. You were perfectly made, as screwed up as you might be, as screwed up as I am, perfectly made for that purpose. And that purpose, whatever it is extraordinary, and nobody else can do it. And so, like I said, that's kind of the base of that. And I don't even know how long it's been since I've updated that. It's probably needing to be updated just because the direction has changed a little bit, but it's always kind of in that same lane of just the impact and the purpose and the just chasing better for yourself and making a difference.
I love that, brother. That need chasing chasing a better for yourself. It should be a T-shirt right there, man. That's awesome. I cannot tell you how much I've appreciated your time today. I've been looking forward to this. You know, I've been trying to make this happen, but I've just my scheduling was so screwed up because I didn't give you the priority you should have been. So I apologize for that. But this has been a
No, no.
blast, man.
Yeah, you
Now
bet.
we haven't even touched on your articles.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make sure I post your articles on my social media when this comes out, and I want everybody to go to either I listen to you on Spotify. Go to his podcast, Crew First Culture with Jeremy Sanders. It's on Spotify, it's on Google, it's on Apple, it's on all major platforms. Just pick any one. Pick any one of them. I promise you, you are going to love it. Then after you listen to his podcast, you get one, you're going to get hooked. You're going to listen to a ton of them. After that, I want you to go to Crew One ST. That's the number one, Crew One ST culture at I'm sorry, crew1stculture.com and go look at his website. There's nothing but great information on there. And I tell you right now, go to his merch because I tell you what, if you love the job, if you truly love the job, if you truly put your citizens first, you're going to want to show people that. And that's what his merch is all about. He didn't ask me to plug any of this, people. I'm telling you, he gave me zero input on any of this stuff. So I'm not saying this because he asked me. I believe in his message. I believe in his website. He cares. He's a brother. Brother Sanders, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you. I appreciate
Man,
it, man. This is the first time I actually talked with you face to face, and never even got to shake your hand yet. But I appreciate the new connection that I've made with you, and look forward to many more conversations for sure. Enjoy it.
buddy, I'm going to listen to your podcast and bug you down. Whenever I hear one, I'll say, "Hey, man, I just listened to this
Let's
podcast."
go.
I'm going to be a thorn. I promise you, brother. But
That's
I
fine.
appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
All right, stay safe, brother.
You too.
Our podcast today was sponsored by Fire Facilities. This Made in America company is dedicated to constructing top quality custom training structures to meet your needs. Make your training count with all steel structures that are made to last. Visit firefacilities.com for more details.